Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Sports Talk. We're now in the postseason here for football. It's been a few weeks since we did one of these, but going into some district championship games, and we got some first round of state playoff games. Let's kind of just kind of get into the main thing here, the elephant in the room. If you're Jersey Shore, is the kind of controversial ending there of that game. You know, they go for the field or an extra point in overtime that would have tied it. It looked like three players from Shamokin kind of jump off sides and get a head start on that. And refs don't call it for whatever reason, and you can't. I don't know how, if you're a referee, you kind of let that go in a big district championship game like that.
Yeah, and I saw highlights of the field goal try at the end of regulation too, and it looked like the same thing. There, where a guy was off sides, and I mean, I know how tough it is to be a ref. I know there's a shortage out there because you have to deal with knuckleheads out there.
Yeah,
but you can. It's holding is one thing. There's so many different penalties where you can say it's judgment calls. This is pretty apparent. You can't mess that up.
Yeah, because as I said, because you and I looked at it on Friday night after you got done writing your story, and we're both just how do you miss that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even close. So it's a crappy way to lose. And Henry Huber has a column tomorrow. He was at the game, and he sums it up pretty good. But obviously, it's not fair for Jersey Shore to lose in that manner. But it's also not fair to Shamokin because now they have to deal with people saying, well, you wouldn't have won if it wasn't for that call.
Yeah.
And the bottom line, I mean, if they make the call offsides, which they should have, that doesn't mean Jersey Shore wins. It just means they get the ball now at the 1.5 yard line. Now they probably go for 2. Doesn't mean they win the game. So I don't think anybody's saying Jersey Shore would have won, but it would have increased their chances of winning.
Yeah.
They at least still would have had a shot, which they should have had, and that was taken away. And it's a shame because it mars what was an incredible game.
Yeah, I mean, instant classic there. And, hats off to and that doesn't diminish anything from Shamokin. I mean, they played an awesome game. They won. They played Shore tough, but that's a tough way to lose if you're Jersey Shore. And like you said, for Shamokin, it's tough that now you have these people say, well, you shouldn't have won.
It's a bad situation for everybody. And it's a shame because I think Shamokin will make a run. I won't be surprised if they get at least to the state semifinals. And I think Jersey Shore would have done the same thing. And it's obviously there's 100 play. I mean, not 100, but there's so many plays. I'm sure Jersey Shore could look at and say, if we would have done this or done that, we win the game, and it doesn't come down to that. But that still doesn't change the fact that that's a horrible way to go down, and that's something that they're always going to think about. And that's just the last thing you want in any game, especially a district championship and a thriller like that, to have that gnawing at you, that what if the call was made.
Yeah, exactly. Last week you read the District 4 Class A championship game. Muncie just steamrolling over Line Mountain in that one. I mean, Muncie, their offense was just doing everything right in that game. And Austin Johnson, Landon Walmer, they were running well. You have a story in Wednesday's Sun-Gazette about the O-line kind of paving the way for Muncie, and just how key was their running game in that one?
That was awesome. I mean, there was one guy on the Sun-Gazette sports staff that picked Line Mountain, and he's going to remain nameless. But that guy thought that because Line Mountain had almost beaten Lewisburg and had almost beaten Steel High, that it was going to be really hard for Muncie to win. And that guy was wrong because Muncie just played bully ball. Their O-line was awesome. And I don't know who that guy was. But
can't imagine.
They just bullied them up front, and that was the only thing I thought going into the game that might help Muncie. Is Montgomery had some success in the semifinals running against Line Mountain, and Muncie just built off of that. They were punishing up front, and then Austin Johnson and Landon Walmer were running as well as I've ever seen them run, and that's saying a lot because both of those guys have had some great games, but Austin Johnson was, like Bo Jackson. I used the Bo Jackson Super Tecmo Bowl resume or analogy all the time. That's what he was like. It was like he was just bowling people. Oh, he's hurdling people. I've never known it. I never saw him jump like that. He's hurdling guys. He was like a Superman in cleats. And Walmer was, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. He set up another one with a 34-yard catch. He has a pick 6. Everything was working for Muncie. That was just an awesome game that they played.
Yeah, as I said, all year they've just been playing. I feel like their MO is kind of, let's start fast, keep the foot on the gas, and kind of get that huge early first half lead and put teams in a hole they can't climb out of.
Yeah, and one of the good. It's funny, it's not a good thing, but I think the Hughesville loss in Week 10. In hindsight, might have been the best thing to happen to them because they were trucking teams left and right every week. And like you said, I mean, they were up 27-14 on Hughesville with about 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game, and they end up losing. And I think that put it in their heads that when we get a team down, we better keep them down and not give them any hope. And they learned a lesson against Canton and Line Mountain, and Line Mountain's a heck of a team. I mean, they've been scoring points in bunches all season. They put up 40 on Steel High. They had 23 against Lewisburg. They were averaging almost 40 a game, and Muncie goes out and doesn't allow an offensive point. Points came on a kick return. So that was as good as Muncie's played all season by far, considering the strength of opponent on all sides of the ball. So just a complete team effort. Everybody had their fingerprints on it, and it was pretty fun to watch.
They get Lackawanna Trail here on Friday night. Obviously, it's going to be a tough test, but what do you think is going to be the key for Muncie to kind of get a win on Friday in this one?
The line's going to have to come up big again on both sides of the ball. Lackawanna Trail is a physical team. What's coming. I don't want to say it's identical to Muncie. Muncie Styles Ayers is close to 1,000 yards passing, but Trail is a wing T team. They run the ball at will. They just try to bully you. I think they have a back over 1,400 yards or so. They've got a great tradition there. They've made some deep runs in states, and it's predicated upon that strong line play on both sides of the ball and controlling the clock, controlling the line of scrimmage. So Muncie's going to have to try to do everything that they did against Line Mountain and do it even at a higher level, because I think that's what it's going to come down to, whether they can slow down that running game and whether they can establish their running game as well and try to keep Lackawanna Trail's dangerous offense off the field.
Yeah. Williamsport won the District 2-4 Class 6A championship last week. Second district title since 95, right?
Yeah, second. Yep.
Yeah. Just a great season for them. And like you kind of touched on in your story here in Wednesday's edition of the Sun-Gazette, their defense has just been playing solid throughout the postseason.
Yeah, they're like the 85 Bears, 6 points against Hazleton in the first quarter in the semis and 7 straight scoreless quarters since. And, I think the offense has been kind of slow to burn, but, I think they have that 2000 Ravens mentality where it's like, just give us 1 or 2 touchdowns and we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
And that was more than enough against Hazleton and Wilkes-Barre. They've actually, going back to the fourth quarter of the first Wilkes-Barre game in Week 10, the defense has scored more points than they've allowed. They've got 2 touchdowns and have only allowed 1.
Jeez.
So they're doing it at all 3 levels. The line's been great. Jaden Ransom did his best. Derek Thomas, he had 7 sacks against Hazleton in one game. That's a good season in one game.
Exactly.
And they had 5 more sacks against Wilkes-Barre. They held them to 178 yards. So you play good defense, you got a chance to win every game you're in, and that's what they're doing really well right now.
And obviously their defense, their biggest test, obviously I would say is this week. They get State College, who's you said number 1 in the state, number 3 in the state. So obviously that's a tough one coming in. And I think obviously if you're Williamsport, you got to hope that defense just keeps playing solid and to give them any chance to win this.
Yeah, I mean this. To the old Dan Patrick line, I don't think you're going to stop them. You're going to only hope to contain State College. They have a quarterback it seems like, just looking at their stats, they run the kind of offense that Chris Masse would run. They love to sling it and air it out. Their quarterback he's closed in on 3,000 yards. He's got 30 touchdowns. They have a receiver with 1,400 yards. So they're going to have to get the pass rush is going to have to be there. They're going to try to disrupt him, and They had 3 interceptions against Wilkes-Barre, so they're hoping, if they can make some turnovers happen, cash in on every opportunity they get, that's what they're going to have to do, because they're probably going to have to play close to a perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done against a team like that to play that well.
Yep.
Last week, going out of the District 4 to the semifinals here, in Double A, you have Troy and Warrior Run here in the championship game. Warrior Run, I believe, first District 4 championship.
Ever?
Yeah. Yep. So our former coworker Jake Felix has to be happy with that. A former Warrior Run grad.
He's probably had his Warrior Run jacket on all week.
But great season for them. But obviously, if you're Warrior Run, you're in for a tough one that against a really good Troy team, which just cruised past Southern Columbia, which is also something that not many teams can say they can do.
No. Troy, Southern had won 42 straight playoff games before that, so that tells you everything. That includes 27 straight in the District 4 playoffs.
Now, was that Troy? Was that a Mercy Roll game?
That was
I don't know. When was the last time Southern's been Mercy Roll?
The 2016 state final. And before that, it had probably been about 5 or 6 years before that. So,
that's crazy.
All sorts of. Here's another one that'll blow your mind. Southern had lost twice in district since 1990 before this game, and they were both at home. It was Montoursville beat them in 14, Line Mountain beat them in 07. So the last time Southern had lost on the road in districts was 1990 at Canton. 1990.
That's crazy.
I was in 8th grade.
I was 3 years old.
So, all sorts of crazy streaks ended there. Troy won in that game for a year, and when they got it, they took advantage of it in a big way. But, Warrior, I want to say Warrior Run's just happy to be there, but I think they wanted to make history, and they did that by just getting here. And they're going to have to play a phenomenal game to have any kind of a shot there. But, what a year it's been for them. Pretty amazing, because they lost 3 heartbreakers down the stretch, and they were banged up with injuries. So it says a ton about their resilience that they were able to regroup, refocus, go on the road, beat a good Loyal Sock team, and they go to Towanda and batter a team that had won 5 straight games.
Yeah. Warrior Run's offense has just been playing well the last few weeks. And Troy's offense is just a juggernaut this year, but Troy's defense, I feel, is just as solid as their offense. So that's going to be an interesting matchup with like Sam Hall, wide receiver, and stuff, to see how they kind of try to contain Warrior Run's offense a bit.
Yeah, and Warrior Run has a lot more balance than they've had in recent years. Eli Butler's gone over 1,000 yards, and that kid's a freak. I wrote about him a week or so ago. Really he was just primarily a linebacker as a junior. Now he's a 1,000-yard rusher. He has 400 yards receiving. Got like 130 tackles, 30 for loss, 4 interceptions, a pick 6, a kick return touchdown, a partridge in a pear tree. So he's been a beast. So they got that. Colby LeBaron's run for 9 touchdowns, and that's why I think they can't just gang up on trying to stop the pass. And Sam Hall, so they have more balance this year. But speaking of Sam Hall, tip of the cap to him. He's now the all-time Sun-Gazette leader in career receiving yards. He needed 26 to pass Jalen Andrews, and he got 100. And he had, I don't know, there's a highlight of it. He made an incredible. They like to say Randy Moss, but I would say a Jerry Rice-like catch, because he's the GOAT. I mean, and there's a lot of morons out there that never saw Rice play and try to say, oh, Randy Moss is the best. Watch the film. Randy Moss is a joke compared to Jerry Rice. And unlike Randy Moss, Jerry Rice showed up in big games. Hence, he has all the Super Bowl records, and Randy Moss doesn't have any rings. So anyway, I digress. He riced it and went up with one hand and made an incredible catch that put him up 29-7 at halftime. And he's got over 3,000 receiving yards now. And it's pretty remarkable. He didn't even play receiver as a freshman. He was a running back primarily, and now he's number 2 all time in the area and catches number 1 in receiving yards. So pretty amazing that what he's done. Yeah, definitely.
Then in the District 4 class AAA, you got Lewisburg and
Danville.
Well,
they beat Mount Carmel, and now they play Danville.
Correct. I mean, obviously against Mount Carmel, Jeremiah Davis had, I believe, 5 rushing touchdowns, was it? Or 5 touchdowns. I don't know if they were all rush effort.
Yeah, well, they were.
Yeah,
second straight game.
Yeah, that's just crazy. He's such a dynamic running back that just gives that offense such a huge boost.
Yeah. I mean, he just seems to get better as the year's gone on, and it's a kid that tore his ACL in preseason as a sophomore and has just come back. He went over 1,000 last year, and I think he worked like a dog in the offseason, and it's shown. He's got some power. He's got great speed. He has great cutting ability, vision. He just has the whole package and has a really good offensive line in front of him. So, I mean, and with the line doing what it does, that's a kid that you give him a little bit of a crease. He can take it a long way, and it's been a great marriage between the blockers and Jeremiah Davis this year, especially the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're Danville, I think obviously defensively, the game plan is try to not let him get into open space and make you pay that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll probably try to load the box. And I mean, Danville, they have a great defense and they have great lateral quickness too. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup. It's strength versus strength there, and yeah, I mean, I think everybody goes in saying we have to contain him, and that's easier said than done though. So how that matchup plays out will obviously play a huge role in how the game plays out.
And obviously, if you're Lewisburg, conversely, you got to try to hope to slow down Danville's passing attack because they can air it out.
Yeah, and they can run it really well too. So I mean, it's
pick your poison.
Yeah, because Madden Patrick went over 2,000 yards again at quarterback. He needs 2 touchdown passes to tie Logan Libby for the all-time District 4 career touchdown pass record. Excuse me. But then Bo Sheptock at running back has over almost 1,700 yards rushing and over 30 rushing touchdowns. So they keep you on your toes. I mean, whether they want to run the ball, whether they want to try to play ground and pound, or whether they want to air it out, they can do both effectively. So Lewisburg's got a lot on their plate this week, and they're going to have to be really disciplined in how they play it. And they faced a dynamic offense in Mount Carmel last week and did awesome, but they're going to have to do even better because Danville's even better offensively than Mount Carmel was.
And I think Danville, too, they're one of those teams that you can't kind of be comfortable with the lead. I mean, last week when Torresville went up 10-0 in the first quarter, and all of a sudden Danville, I believe it was 35 unanswered points to put that one away. So you can't think you have any sort of real comfortable lead when you're against Danville because they can turn it on just like that.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what we said about Muncie, if you get a lead on them, you definitely have to try to keep your foot on the gas because they can put up points in a hurry, and they've come back to win now against Montoursville, and they did it against Mount Carmel early in their season. So it's not a team that's going to go away if they're not going to shy away if they get behind early or late by that, whatever.
Yeah. So obviously 4 interesting games to kind of see how they kind of shake out this week, and hopefully we have at least 1, maybe 2 area teams left after this week to keep the season going.
I'm not ready for the season to end. It's been a lot of fun. So a lot of guys doing historic things, and mentioned Sam Hall and then Austin Johnson. He's 3rd all-time in career rushing now in the area, number 2 in touchdowns. So it's been between the team success and seeing a lot of individual kids do stuff that, in Sam Hall's case, you've never seen. In Austin Johnson's case, you've almost never seen. It's been a lot of fun. So somebody win this week and keep the season going for us.
And for you, that's going to make the all-star teams even more tough to kind of. Some of those positions are, who do you cut for second team when?
Because as teams get eliminated, I start putting more on the ballot, and it's. I think we're up to 4 1,000-yard receivers now. Usually we only take 3 for the first team. The running back, I mean, every position's loaded.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we cover 17 teams. So I think people lose sight of that sometimes and think just because this kid had a really good year, they're a shoe-in, and it's not that easy. There's a lot of players that had pretty awesome seasons, and there's kids that in the past are all-state that only get second team because it's just such a loaded field. So the committee's going to have some tough choices to make this year, and there might be some chairs thrown. And
every year there's something broken.
There is, yeah. This chalkboard might get broken when we put up there, because we'll put up there on the depth chart who we think it is, and then somebody will come in and try to erase it, and then I'll throw a punch, and somebody will throw a chair at me. Yeah, It's not for the faint of heart, but that's why we get paid what we do.
Exactly.
Tough decisions.
Well, that'll do it for us for Sports Talk this week. Hopefully we're back next week with at least someone moving on.